The strange alien Evan was a young human engineer, sent from Earth to a faraway alien planet called Vera. Vera was beautiful, with tall shining towers, floating lights in the sky, and strange blue trees everywhere. The aliens of Vera called. The Veyrans looked different from humans. They had blue skin, silver eyes, and long white hair. Evan was the first human ever invited to their main city, Lurith. As Evan's small spaceship landed, he felt excited but also nervous. He had heard stories about the Veyrans, but never met one in real life. He came because the Veyran city's energy core was broken, and they needed help to fix it. Only humans knew how to repair this type of old technology. When the ship's door opened, a group of Veyrans waited outside. They wore long, shining robes and looked very serious. The leader, called the Grand Elder, stepped forward. He spoke in a clear, deep voice. "Welcome, Engineer Evan. We are thankful you have come. Our city is in great danger. But before you can help us, there's an old law you must follow." Evan was confused. He looked around and saw the other Veyrans watching him closely. The Grand Elder continued, "According to our oldest tradition, anyone who wishes to touch our sacred energy core must first perform an inspection of our royal guardian. Only then can you help us." Evan's heart started beating faster. "Inspection? What does that mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. The Grand Elder turned and motioned for someone to step forward. A young Veyran woman appeared. She was tall and graceful, with bright blue skin and shining silver eyes. She wore a dress that sparkled in the sunlight. "This is Princess Lyra, the royal guardian of our city," the Grand Elder announced. "You must inspect her, as the law says." The other Veyrans nodded, their faces serious. Evan was shocked. He had never heard of such a thing. "What kind of inspection?" he asked, still very confused. Princess Lyra smiled softly, as if she understood his worry. "Do not be afraid, Evan," she said in a gentle voice. "The inspection is an old ceremony. It is not what you think. It is only a small test to show that you are brave, honest, and respectful." Evan felt a little better, but he was still worried. He did not want to make a mistake in front of everyone. The Grand Elder gave him a pair of soft white gloves and explained, "You must touch her arm and look into her eyes. If you can do this calmly, the law says you are a true friend to our people." Evan took a deep breath. The whole city seemed to be watching him. He looked at Lyra. She looked back, her eyes calm and kind. He slowly reached out and gently touched her arm with his gloved hand. Her skin felt cool and smooth, almost like water. He looked into her silver eyes. For a moment, everything around them disappeared. It was just Evan and Lyra in that silent, powerful moment. Suddenly, Lyra whispered, "Most visitors run away. You are different." Her words made Evan blush, but he did not look away. The Grand Elder nodded, pleased. "You have passed the first part of the test. Now you must follow Lyra to the ancient hall." Evan felt relief, but also a new worry. He had done the inspection, but he still did not know why this law existed. As he walked with Lyra down a long, glowing hallway, she spoke quietly. "This law is very old. My people believe it protects us from danger. But I think it is just a way to see who we can trust." Evan listened, curious. "Has anyone ever failed the inspection?" he asked. Lyra smiled sadly. "Many have. Some were too scared. Some did not respect our ways. But you are different. You seem honest." Evan was surprised. He did not think touching someone's arm could mean so much. But he could see that the Veyrans took this law very seriously. They reached the ancient hall. It was huge, with tall stone pillars and blue lights shining from the floor. On the walls were pictures of old Veyran heroes and strange symbols. The air felt heavy, as if many secrets were hidden here. Lyra stopped and turned to Evan. "Now you must promise to help us. The energy core keeps our city alive. Without it, we are lost." Evan nodded. "I promise I will do my best." Lyra smiled. and for the first time, Evan felt that maybe he truly belonged here. But he still wondered, why did the law ask for this inspection? What did the Vayrans really want from him? As the city lights flickered and the energy core's warning sirens echoed in the distance, Evan knew this was only the beginning. He had passed the first test, but many more mysteries were waiting. Evan tried to calm his heart as he followed Princess Lyra through the long hallways of the alien palace. The walls glowed softly, lighting their way. Lyra walked ahead, silent and serious, but sometimes she glanced back and smiled, as if she could see how nervous Evan felt. The ancient law's inspection was over, but something deeper was just starting. They stopped in front of a tall door made of shining silver. Lyra placed her hand on a strange blue crystal in the center of the door. The crystal glowed, and the door opened slowly with a soft hum. Inside, Evan saw a huge round room with a high ceiling, decorated with blue banners and golden patterns. The room was full of important-looking Vayrans sitting in a circle, waiting for him. Lyra leaned close and whispered, "This is the Council of Elders. They watch the ceremony to judge if you are truly worthy. Do not worry, I will be with you." Her words comforted Evan a little, but his hands were shaking. Everyone's eyes were on him. A tall elder with a sharp face stood up and spoke in a calm but powerful voice. "Evan of Earth, you have passed the inspection of our royal guardian. Now, by our tradition, you must complete the ceremony of trust." The elder pointed to a small table in the middle of the room. On it were strange items, 2 silver cups, a blue crystal, and a small shining knife. Evan's heart beat even faster. He had never done anything like this before. Lyra stepped forward. She took 1 cup and filled it with glowing blue liquid from a tall glass bottle. She gave the other cup to Evan. "This is Vayran truth water," she explained softly. "We drink it together. It shows we both trust each other. If you are not honest, you will feel dizzy and fall. But if you are truthful, nothing will happen." Evan took the cup with both hands. The water looked beautiful, but he was afraid. He remembered Lyra's gentle smile and trusted her. Together, they raised their cups and drank. The water tasted sweet and cold. For a second, Evan thought he might faint, but nothing happened. The council watched in silence. Then Lyra nodded, and the elder smiled. "He is honest," the elder said. The other Vayrans nodded in agreement. Out came the next part of the ceremony. Lyra held the small shining knife and gently made a tiny cut on her own hand. A single drop of blue blood fell onto the crystal on the table. Then she handed the knife to Evan. "You do not have to do this if you are afraid," she whispered. Evan shook his head bravely. He copied Lyra, making a small cut on his finger, letting 1 drop of his blood fall onto the crystal. The crystal glowed bright blue, sending a beam of light into the air. The council stood up and clapped their hands together in a slow, serious rhythm. "The ceremony is complete. The bond is made," the elder declared. Evan felt strange but also proud. He had passed a test no other human had ever faced. Lyra stood by his side and looked at him with shining eyes. "You were not afraid," she said softly. "That means something very important to my people." As the council left the room, Lyra and Evan were alone for a moment. Evan felt 1,000 questions in his mind. "Why did I have to do all this?" he finally asked. Lyra looked down. "Long ago, an outsider betrayed us. Since then, our laws have been strict. We must always test trust. But I believe things can change." Suddenly, there was a loud noise from outside. The palace doors opened, and a group of young Vayrans entered. They looked worried. The city's energy is dropping faster. One of them shouted, "The shields are failing." Evan knew this was why he was here. He nodded to Lyra. "Show me the energy core." "We don't have much time." Lyra led him down another hallway, this one darker and colder. As they walked, she spoke softly. "Thank you, Evan. You did not run away. Most outsiders do." Evan shrugged, trying to smile. "Earth is full of strange things, too. he said. "But I've never seen anything like this." Finally, they reached a giant steel door. Lyra placed her hand on another blue crystal, and the door slid open with a loud hiss. Inside was the city's energy core, a tall humming machine glowing with blue and white lights. Sparks flew from its sides, and alarms beeped all around. Evan looked at the machine. He felt fear, but also excitement. "I'll fix it," he promised. Lyra stood close, watching him with hope in her eyes. As he worked, Lyra asked quietly, "Why do you help strangers, Evan?" He smiled, thinking of home. "Because sometimes the best friends are the ones you haven't met yet." Outside, the alarms grew louder. Inside, two very different people stood together, bound by trust and hope, as the fate of an alien city hung in the balance. Evan stood in the heart of the alien energy chamber, surrounded by pulsing blue lights and strange machines. His mind worked fast as he studied the ancient technology. Tools clicked in his hands, and sparks danced in the air. Lyra watched him. Quietly, her silver eyes filled with both worry and hope. But as Evan worked, he could not stop thinking about the strange ceremony. He had never heard of a law like this. Why were the Vaerans so afraid? And why did Lyra seem different from the others? The questions grew in his mind like a shadow. Suddenly, the room grew cold. The lights flickered, and Evan heard whispers from the hallway. He turned and saw two older Vaerans peeking through the doorway. They watched him with narrow, suspicious eyes. Evan tried to ignore them and focused on the repair, but their presence made his hands shake a little. Lyra noticed his worry. She stepped closer, blocking the elder's view. In a soft voice, she said, "Don't let them make you nervous. Some of my people still fear outsiders. But you are here to help, and I trust you." Evan nodded and tried to smile. He tightened a few screws and replaced a glowing blue crystal inside the machine. Slowly, the humming of the energy core became steady and strong. Lyra's eyes widened. With delight, "You did it, Evan," she whispered. Just then, the Grand Elder entered the room, his long white robe floating behind him. "You have fixed the energy core," he said. "But your presence still brings questions. Why should we trust a human after what happened long ago?" Evan looked confused. He wiped his hands on his uniform. "What happened before?" he asked. The Grand Elder's face grew hard. "Many years ago, another outsider, a human, visited Vera. He promised friendship, but he lied. He stole our secrets and nearly destroyed our city. That is why our laws are so strict. That is why we test every stranger." Evan's heart sank. "But I am not like him. I only want to help." Lyra stepped forward bravely. "Evan risked everything to help us. He passed every test. We cannot keep fearing the past forever." The Grand Elder looked at Lyra with a mixture of sadness and pride. "You have always had a kind heart, Princess. But kindness can be dangerous." Evan wanted to say more, but another alarm rang out through the palace. A group of young Vaerans rushed in, shouting about another problem. A group of machines outside the city walls had stopped working, and the city's shield was weak again. Evan looked at Lyra. "Let's go," he said. Lyra nodded, and together they hurried through the shining corridors. Outside, the city looked different. The blue trees swayed in a strange wind, and the floating lights above the towers flickered like nervous fireflies. As they walked, Lyra told Evan more about the past. "After the betrayal, my people lost their trust. The law became stricter. Now most Vaerans avoid outsiders. But I have always believed that things can change. That's why I volunteered to be the royal guardian. I wanted to meet someone new." Evan listened carefully. "You're very brave, Lyra." She laughed quietly. "Some say foolish, not brave, but I believe you must take risks to find new friends." They reached the edge of the city. There, giant machines hummed and clicked, but some had stopped working. The shield above the city faded in places, and a cold wind blew through the open gaps. Evan knelt beside one of the broken machines. He opened a panel and saw a tangled mess of wires and blue crystals. He took a deep breath and started to work, with Lyra shining a light so he could see better. As he worked, 2 more Vaerians approached. They wore dark clothes and had suspicious eyes. "Why do you let a human touch our machines?" One whispered. To Lyra, "He could make things worse." Lyra stood tall. "He is our guest and has done nothing wrong. If we never trust, we will always be afraid." The other Vaerian sneered. "If you are wrong, it will be your fault." Evan felt the pressure. He worked faster, using everything he knew about alien technology. After a few minutes, the machine hummed back to life, and the shield above them glowed strong and blue again. Suspicious Vaerians looked surprised. They mumbled and walked away, but Evan knew they still did not trust him. As the night grew colder, Lyra and Evan stood side by side, watching the city lights return to normal. Lyra turned to him. "Thank you, Evan. You have given my people hope. Maybe with time things will change." Evan smiled softly. "Sometimes trust starts with just one person. Maybe you are that person for your people." Lyra smiled back. In that moment, Evan realized he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something bigger, a new hope for 2 worlds. But in the darkness, someone else was watching, his eyes full of jealousy and anger. Trouble was coming, and Evan's journey on Vera was far from over. Evan sat quietly in the guest room the Vaerians had prepared for him. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and a gentle hum filled the air from hidden machines. He could still feel the weight of the day's events. First the strange inspection law, then the uncomfortable ceremony, and now the secrets of the past. He was tired, but his mind would not rest. He looked out the window and saw the alien city below. Floating lanterns drifted between the blue towers. In the distance, he could see the energy core shining bright, the heart of the city he had helped save. He wondered what would happen next. Did the Vaerians really trust him now? Was he truly welcome here? Suddenly, the door opened. Lyra entered. Quietly, her eyes glowing in the soft light. She carried a small box in her hands. "Evan, may I speak with you?" she asked. "Of course," Evan replied, surprised but happy to see her. Lyra sat down across from him and opened the box. Inside was a delicate silver chain with a blue crystal pendant. "This is for you," she said, gently holding out the necklace. "It is a symbol of trust and friendship in my world." Evan took the pendant, feeling its cool weight in his hand. "Thank you, Lyra. This means a lot." Lyra smiled, but Evan could see she was nervous. She looked down, twisting her fingers. "There is something else I must ask you," she said softly. "But first, you should know that not all of my people support you. Some are afraid, some are angry." Evan nodded. "I saw it today. Some of them watched me with suspicion. But I only want to help." Lyra looked into his eyes. "I know. That is why I have made a decision." She stood up, straightened her dress, and faced him seriously. "Evan, I would like you to stay in Vera, not just as a guest, but as my advisor. I want you to help me lead our people into a new future. But I must be honest, this is not only about work." Evan's heart raced. He had come to Vera to repair a machine, but now Lyra was offering him a place beside her. "What do you mean?" he asked carefully. Lyra blushed, her silver eyes shining brighter. "During the inspection, I saw something different in you. I felt a connection. You are honest, brave, and you care about others. I have never met anyone like you before, not even among my own people." Evan felt the weight of her words. He looked down at the pendant, thinking about his life on Earth. He had never truly belonged there, always feeling like an outsider. Here, on Vera, things were strange and new, but he felt needed, even wanted. Just then, a loud alarm echoed through the city. Red lights flashed outside the window, and Evan and Lyra rushed to the balcony. Down below, the shield protecting the city shimmered and wavered, then flickered out in several places. The night air was suddenly cold and sharp. Lyra's communicator beeped. She answered quickly. A guard's voice came through, worried. "Princess, the outer shield is failing again. There is another energy surge. We need you and the human at the control center right away." Without another word, Evan and Lyra ran through the palace halls. They moved quickly, Lyra leading the way. Guards bowed as they passed, and some stared at Evan, surprised to see him at the princess's side. They reached the control center, a round room filled with screens, blinking lights, and worried technicians. At the center was a massive console, where the city's energy flow was controlled. A giant crackling screen showed the shield's weak spots, red marks all around the city's border. Evan jumped into action. He asked for tools and scanned the screens. "There's an overload in the west sector. If we don't balance the energy, the whole city could lose power," he said quickly. Lyra nodded. "What do you need?" "Someone who knows the cities." "Systems," Evan replied. "Someone I can trust." Lyra stood beside him, giving clear instructions to her team. Together, they worked fast, shutting down the failing sections and rerouting power. Sweat dripped down Evan's face as he rewired circuits and adjusted the settings. At one point, the lights blinked off and on. For a few seconds, the city was almost in total darkness, but then the shield flickered back, brighter and stronger than before. The technicians cheered. "You did it," Lyra said, turning to Evan with relief. He smiled, exhausted but happy. "We did it, together." After the emergency was over, the control center emptied out, leaving just Evan and Lyra. Lyra looked at Evan with new respect. "You saved us again. Now, will you consider my proposal?" Evan was quiet for a moment, feeling the meaning of her words. He looked out at the city, then back at Lyra. "Maybe Vera could be my new home," he said slowly. "Maybe I belong here after all." Lyra smiled, hope shining in her eyes. "Then let us build the future together." But in the shadows outside, the control center, Keller, the chief advisor, watched them with cold eyes. He did not want a human by the princess's side, and he was ready to fight for what he believed was right. After the long night in the control center, Evan returned to his guest room, tired but hopeful. He placed the silver chain and blue pendant from Lyra on the table, staring at it with a small smile. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. But outside, dark clouds gathered over the shining towers of Vera, and danger was much closer than Evan knew. Keller, the chief advisor, stood alone in his private chamber, watching the city through a wide glass window. He was tall, with sharp blue features and cold, calculating eyes. For years, Keller had dreamed of leading Vera, and he never trusted outsiders, especially humans. He felt insulted by the princess's trust in Evan. A human cannot change. "Our ways," he muttered. "I will not let him steal our future." Keller called his closest followers to a secret meeting. In the dim light, he spoke to them in hushed, angry tones. "We must act now," he said. "If we let the humans stay, our traditions will be lost. He is too close to Princess Lyra. We must show the council and the people that he is not to be trusted." His followers nodded. Some were afraid, but many shared Keller's fears. He quickly formed a plan, one that would put Evan in great danger. That afternoon, Evan was invited to a meeting with the Vayiran Council. The hall was grand, filled with high seats and shimmering lights. Lyra sat beside the elders, looking nervous. Keller stood to speak. His voice was smooth but cold. "Respected elders, we are grateful for Evan's help, but we must be careful. Old laws exist for a reason. If our guest truly respects our ways, let him prove it once more." The elders nodded. Lyra's eyes widened with worry. She glanced at Evan, silently warning him to be careful. Keller turned to Evan, his smile thin and sharp. Evan, we have heard rumors. Some say you did not follow the inspection ceremony properly. Others say you tampered with the energy core for your own gain. These are serious accusations. How do you answer? Evan stood, heart pounding. I have only done what you asked. I followed your laws. I fixed your machines and saved your city. I would never betray your trust. Keller raised a hand, pretending to be fair. Then you will have no problem allowing us to search your belongings and review your work. If you are innocent, you have nothing to hide. Evan agreed, though he felt uneasy. He knew he had done nothing wrong. The council ordered a search of his room and his tools. Keller's followers rushed away, eager to find anything suspicious. While they waited, Keller whispered to the elders. Evan saw Lyra's face fill with fear and anger. She stood up. This is not right. We cannot treat a guest like a criminal without proof. The elders argued quietly, but the room was tense. Evan could only stand and wait as minutes stretched. Into hours. At last, Keller's followers returned. One held up a small black device. We found this hidden among his tools. The man shouted. Evan's eyes widened. He had never seen the device before. Keller grabbed it and showed it to the council. This is a signal disruptor. With this, he could have turned off our shield or harmed our machines. This proves he is a danger. Gasps filled the hall. The elders looked at Evan with suspicion. Is this true? The Grand Elder asked. Evan shook his head quickly. No, I did not bring that device. Someone must have planted it. Keller smiled coldly. The law is clear. Any guest who breaks trust must be held until we are certain of his innocence. Evan must be placed under guard. Guards moved forward, surrounding Evan. He looked to Lyra, who stood between him and the guards. You cannot do this, she said. Evan has done nothing wrong. But Keller only bowed his head. It is not for me to decide. The law must be followed. Evan was taken away, locked in a small stone room deep under the palace. He sat alone, his mind spinning with worry and anger. Above, Lyra argued with the elders, begging them to see the truth. She knew Keller was behind the plot, but she needed proof. Outside the prison room, Keller smiled, feeling victory close. He planned to convince the council to banish Evan forever. Without the human, Lyra would have to follow old traditions, and Keller would be safe in his power, but Lyra was not ready to give up. Late that night, she sneaked down to Evan's cell, her blue cloak hiding her in the shadows. She whispered through the bars, I know you are innocent. I will find proof. You must be brave, Evan. Our future depends on it. Evan reached for her hand. Thank you, Lyra. I won't give up. We'll show them the truth. Far above, the storm grew stronger and danger pressed closer. The battle for trust, for love, and for the future of Vera was only beginning. Evan sat alone in the cold stone cell, staring at the single beam of blue light coming through a crack in the ceiling. The silence was heavy. He thought about everything: his home on Earth, the day he met Lyra, and how quickly hope had turned into danger. He clenched the silver pendant she had given him, determined not to give up. Up above, Lyra was fighting. For him, she moved from one council member to another, her voice steady but urgent. You know, Evan saved us twice. Keller is lying. Please let me speak for him in the trial. Give him one fair chance. Some elders listened, remembering Evan's bravery. Others shook their heads, afraid of breaking tradition. Keller watched from the shadows, pleased to see the council divided. He whispered to his followers, it won't matter. The law is on my side. The trial will end this. That evening, the palace filled with people. The council chamber was packed, tension thick in the air. Evan was brought forward by two guards. He stood straight, though his wrists were chained. Lyra was by his side, her presence a silent comfort. The Grand Elder's voice echoed through the room. Evan of Earth, You are accused of betraying our trust and endangering our city. What do you say before this council?" Evan looked at the crowd, meeting Lyra's eyes. "I have done nothing wrong. I fixed your machines, followed your laws, and risked my life to help you. Someone planted that device to frame me. Please, let me prove my innocence." Keller stepped forward, pretending to be calm. "He speaks well, but words are easy. Actions matter. The device was found with his things. The law is clear." The council argued. Some wanted to send Evan home at once. Others demanded proof. Lyra stood tall and addressed everyone. "You all saw Evan save us. He drank the truth water and passed our test. He fixed the core and the shield. He was never afraid of our customs. Please look beyond old fears." Keller raised his hand. "Enough. The law demands a final trial, a test of spirit and skill. If he passes, he may stay. If he fails, he must leave forever," the Grand Elder agreed. "The old way says the accused must face the chamber of judgment. There, he must solve the puzzle and save the city again, but this time alone. If he succeeds, we forgive. If he fails, he must never return," Lyra protested. "That is not fair. The chamber is dangerous. No one has solved its puzzle in years." But the elders would not listen. "It is the law," they repeated. Guards led Evan to a secret chamber deep below the palace. It was a giant round room with strange machines, shifting platforms, and walls that glowed with alien runes. At the center was a control panel covered in buttons and crystals. On the far wall, a giant screen showed the city's energy flow. Red lines blinked across it. If the puzzle was not solved, the city's power would fail and the shield would fall. A voice echoed from above. "Your trial begins now. You have 1 hour." Evan's mind raced. He studied the machines, remembering everything he had learned since coming to Vera. He moved fast, pulling wires, pressing buttons, trying to match the patterns he saw on the screen. The room was hot, and sweat ran down his face. Sparks flew as he made changes. Outside the chamber, Lyra watched on a screen with the council. She gripped the rail, whispering, "Come on, Evan, I believe in you." Suddenly, a new alarm blared. The energy core was overloading again, threatening to explode. Evan found the main power cable, but it was locked behind a crystal barrier. He searched for a code, then remembered the old symbols from the council hall. He pressed the matching runes on the panel, and the barrier opened. With shaking hands, Evan reconnected the power cable and reset the controls. The machine made a deep hum, and the screen's red lines turned blue. The city's shield blinked, then shined strong again. The alarm stopped above. The council chamber erupted in cheers and relieved sighs. Even some of Keller's followers clapped in surprise. The Grand Elder declared, "Evan has passed the trial. He is free." Keller scowled in defeat, but could say nothing more. Lyra rushed to the chamber as the guards released Evan. She hugged him tightly. "I knew you would do it. You have shown everyone the truth." Evan smiled, exhausted but proud. "I could not have done it without you, Lyra." The council came down to greet him. For the first time, the elders looked at Evan with respect and some even with hope, but Evan saw that not everyone was cheering. Keller walked away quietly, his plans ruined, but his anger still burning. As the night grew calm, Evan and Lyra stood together outside, looking up at the shield shining above the city. The hardest part was over, but their story was not finished. The future of Vera, and their future together, was finally in their hands. The city of Vera glowed brighter than ever as dawn broke across the blue towers. The storm clouds of the last night were gone, and the floating lights above the city danced in celebration. Evan stood at the palace balcony with Lyra, looking out over a place that once felt strange and distant, but now seemed like home. For the first time, people from every part of Vera gathered in this central plaza. There were banners of blue and gold, children playing, and music filling the air. Elders, workers, and even some of the suspicious council members were there. The city had come together, not out of fear, but out of hope. Lyra wore her royal robe, the blue crystal shining on her chest. She looked at Evan and smiled. "Today is a new day for Vera, and for us," she said quietly. "Are you ready?" Evan nodded, a mix of nerves and excitement in his heart. He still couldn't believe how much had changed since he landed on this alien world. He had come as a stranger, a simple engineer, but now stood as someone the people respected, someone Lyra cared for. A drum sounded. The Grand Elder stood before the crowd, his voice strong. "We have seen great courage and honesty. Evan of Earth risked everything to save our city, not once, but many times. Today we honor him as a true friend of Vera." The crowd cheered, and some even waved to Evan, calling his name. He smiled shyly, not used to being in the spotlight. Lyra squeezed his hand gently, and he felt her strength. Then the Grand Elder continued, "There is one more decision to make. The ancient law that caused so much pain and fear will end today. No more ceremonies of mistrust. From now on, friendship and respect will guide us." People cheered even louder. Some elders looked nervous, but most seemed relieved. Evan saw old enemies shake hands, and children from different families laughing together. The air felt lighter, as if a heavy burden was gone. Suddenly, Keller appeared at the edge of the plaza. He looked tired and defeated, but his eyes no longer held anger. Instead, he approached Evan and Lyra slowly. The crowd grew quiet. Keller bowed his head. "Princess Lyra, Evan, I was wrong. Fear made me blind. I thought I was protecting our city, but I was only protecting old wounds. You have shown us a better way." Lyra nodded, forgiving him. "We all fear what we do not know, Keller, but today we choose hope, not fear." Keller looked at Evan. "You are brave, human. Vera is stronger with you here." Evan offered his hand. Keller took it, and the crowd applauded. In that moment, Evan saw that even the deepest suspicions could change. As the ceremony ended, Lyra led Evan through the plaza. People greeted them, offering small gifts and words of thanks. Evan smiled at each one, his heart full. Later, Lyra took Evan to a quiet garden behind the palace. The blue trees cast gentle shadows, and tiny glowing insects floated in the air. It was peaceful. Lyra turned to him. "Now that the law is gone, you are free. You could go back to Earth, if you wish. But I hope you'll stay." Evan took her hands, feeling her warmth. "I came here thinking I was just fixing a machine. But I found something more. I found a new home, new friends, and maybe something even greater." He looked into her eyes. "If you want me here, I'll stay." Lyra smiled, happiness shining from her. "Then let us build this new world together." They sat in the garden, talking about the future, new ideas, new inventions, and how they could connect Vera with Earth. Lyra dreamed of sending peaceful messages to other worlds. Evan promised to help rebuild the city's system so that everyone could benefit, not just a few. Over the weeks, life in Vera truly changed. People no longer feared outsiders. Humans and Verans worked side by side, learning from each other. The old laws became stories for children, reminders of how far they had come. Evan became an advisor to Lyra, but more than that, he was her partner, her friend, and the bridge between two worlds. Together, they led Vera into an age of hope and trust. One night, as the blue moons rose above the towers, Evan stood on the balcony with Lyra. The city glowed below them, peaceful and safe. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "Did you ever think you'd find your place so far from home?" she asked quietly. Evan smiled, his heart content. "No, but sometimes you have to travel far to discover where you truly belong." The stars above seemed brighter that night, and somewhere in the city, children laughed and danced under the glowing shield, a promise that the future would be brighter for everyone. And so, on a world that once held only suspicion and fear, two very different, people proved that trust and love could build something entirely new. The story of Evan and Lyra was just beginning.